Hey guys, today we're in the book of Numbers, chapter 22. So we're in the last year of the wanderings. We pick up today as Israel has been going up that eastern side of the Jordan River, and we get to a place where they are camped in the plains of Moab. Now, this is basically where they're going to stay all the way until they cross the Jordan River. So the plains of Moab is directly east of Jerusalem, of Jericho. And so this is kind of just the general area. They'll be there for the next basically year, a little less than a year. And so they're camped beyond the Jordan at Jericho. And Balak, who was the king of the Moabites. Notice what it says: Moab was in great dread of the people because they were many. Moab was overcome with fear of the people of Israel. And so, much like what we see in the book of Joshua, when they send 3 spies over into Jericho, and we see Rahab, and Rahab tells them that everybody is scared of Israel. Well, this happened before the promised land because of Sihon and Og, because of what they've been doing and defeating as they have been going up the eastern side of the Jordan River. And so even the king Balak of Moab, he is scared because this big group of people who has been taking over Edom, some of these other civilizations, some of these nomadic tribes, now they're in his backyard and he is scared. So what does he do? He sends for a guy named Balaam. Now in the English, we call him Balaam, and I will continue to call him Balaam. But a little interesting a little note, in Hebrew, his name is Bilyam. And so I remember when I went to Israel, they would talk about, and it took me forever to connect them together. So Balaam is Bilyam, just a little Jeopardy moment there for you, but I'll call him Balaam. And so they send for this guy named Balaam. We will find out later, but somehow, we don't really know the details. Balaam is a prophet, and he apparently has some supernatural power. And so Balak, the king, has probably worked with him before, heard of him, used him before, or had other kings of people that have used him. And so there was already a relationship there. And so they send for this prophet, Balaam, to come and to curse these people, to curse the Israel people, because Balak, the king of Moab, is scared. Notice what it says in verse 7. It says that the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian departed with the fees of divination. This suggests that there's a standard fee for prophets. So this idea that they're calling on a prophet, there would have been a money attached, probably a lot of money, probably a caravan of money. And so there's a fee, right? So that kind of leads to there's already a little relationship. He knows somebody. There's just kind of the inside dealings of this. And he said to them, he tells these people who come to him, he said, stay here tonight. As I will go back and see what the Lord speaks to me. That word Lord is the word Yahweh. What will Yahweh say to me? So the princes of Moab stays with him, and God came to Balaam and said, who are these men with you? Now, God didn't need to come to Balaam. Just because Balaam prayed doesn't mean that God is at his beck and call. But we see here the mercy of God to protect Israel. He comes to Balaam and he asks Balaam, who are these guys? Well, God is God. He knows who these guys are, but God's asking a question because Balaam doesn't know who these guys are. He doesn't know their true intent, right? He's more cares about the money than he does the reason, right? And so God says, who are these guys with you? And God said to Balaam, you shall not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed. So here, God tells him he can't go. God knows that they're what they want. Thirdly, it shows us that Israel truly is blessed, right? Remember, God has said they are, Israel is his people. They are his firstborn son. He will keep them, bless them, protect them. And here, God is keeping up that end of the bargain. They are blessed. They have the hand of God over them. And so in the morning, Balaam rose and says, hey, you need to go back. The Lord, Yahweh, has refused for me to go with you. But notice how he says this. The Lord has refused to let me go with you. It's kind of the idea of, yes, he's stating the truth, but how is he stating the truth, right? The way he says it doesn't give the meaning that God said. God said, you cannot go. Balaam comes out and says, I really wish I could go, but God said no, right? Remember when you were younger and your friends wanted you to go somewhere and you would come in and you would ask your mom, hey, my friends want me to go to here, but I really don't want to go, so say no. And your parents say no. But then you go back to your friends and you say, oh man, I really wanted to go, but my dad said no. That's exactly what's happening here, right? Balaam wanted to go. He wants the money, but he's using God as like, oh, I can't go. God said no. I'm sorry. And so they go back and King Balak sends more money, better people to come back and say, come with us. And notice what verse 19 it says, you guys stay here tonight that I may know what more the Lord shall say to me. So here they send more money and hire officials, and Balaam tells them, well, let me go pray and see what God's going to say, right? Because now there's more money on the line. This would take us back to, has dad ever said one thing and then you went to mom and mom said it's okay? Or you say, you go to mom and mom says no, and you go to dad to see. This is exactly what he's doing. He doesn't care about what God says. He's just using God to be able to get the money that he ultimately wants, right? God has already said he can't go, but he says, well, let me go and ask dad. Let me go ask mom, right? Let me go see if maybe God has changed his mind. That's not what God does, right? But that's what Balaam says. And God came to Balaam that night and said, if the men have come to call you, rise and go with them, but only do what I tell you. So God says, okay, you can go, but you can only do what I tell you. You can only say what I tell you to say. And then in verse 22, it's a confusing verse, right? It says, but God's anger was kindled because he went. When you read this, you think, wait a minute, God just said he could go. No, originally God said, you cannot go. Balaam comes back and says, are you sure, Dad? I would really like to go. And God says, fine. If you want to go, you can go. And if you go, you can't say anything unless I tell you what to say. But I really want you to stay, right? I first told you not to go. And so here he goes. Even though the Lord said, yeah, you can go, it's not that said God gave him permission. He's giving him the desire of his heart, even though that's a bad desire, okay? And because of that, the Lord is angry, and he sends an angel of the Lord. Now we can talk about, is this Jesus? Is it not? It really doesn't matter. I would tend to say yes, the angel of the Lord. It's the same guy we see in Joshua. And we see that he has a little authority, and we'll see that a little bit later. And so he sends an angel of the Lord, and the donkey saw the angel of the Lord. It's funny that in this story that they tell us that, because it tells us that the donkey is more spiritually perceptive than the prophet. Okay, does that make sense? The donkey can see the Lord better than the prophet, than Balaam. And so the donkey goes, and the angel keeps getting in the way, and the donkey keeps moving around, because the donkey knows if he gets close to this angel, judgment's going to happen. The donkey's going to die. Balaam's going to die. Everybody's dying. And so the donkey keeps maneuvering around. The whole time, Balaam keeps beating him and beating the donkey. And eventually the donkey lays down. And then verse 28, the miracle that we see from Sunday school, right? The Lord opened the mouth of the donkey, right? The donkey began to speak. And the donkey asked, "What have I done to you that you have struck me these 3 times?" And Balaam said to the donkey, in the anger that Balaam had, he's now talking to a donkey without hesitation. That just puts you in the mind of where Balaam's at, right? He's so mad. He's so angry. His animal is talking to him, and now he's speaking back to the animal without hesitation, without thought, with, "Oh my goodness, what you speak?" None of that happens. They have this conversation. And the donkey comes in and says, "How long have we been riding together? We've been riding together this whole time. Is it my habit to treat you this way?" And Balaam said no to the donkey. Balaam had to humble himself to the donkey. So notice this. The donkey is more spiritually perceptive. Balaam will humble himself to the donkey, but will not humble himself to the Lord. This shows you the spiritual insight into Balaam's heart, right? Just because he's a prophet doesn't mean he's a good prophet. Doesn't mean he truly cares what the Lord wants, right? And then the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angel of the Lord with the sword drawn in his hand. Balaam knew, as well as the donkey, that when he saw the angel of the Lord, I would say a theophany, right? A pre-incarnate Jesus with a sword drawn, he knew what was happening. Judgment was about to come down. He was about to be killed. And the angel of the Lord said to him, "Why have you struck your donkey these 3 times?" Isn't that funny? The Lord cares about an animal, a donkey. Even in the book of Proverbs, chapter 12, it tells us to treat our animals right. Treat them like humans. And so just an interesting thought that God cares about all of his creation. It's this interesting thing that we see here. "Why have you struck your donkey? Behold, I've come out to oppose you because your way is perverse," or your way is going the wrong way. You are headed the wrong way. That's what the Lord is saying before me. "The donkey saw me and turned aside these 3 times. If she had not turned aside from me, surely just now I would have killed you and let her live." This angel had the power and the authority to take life. So it could have been just an angel, okay, with the authority that God said you could do this. But this is why I think it was a pre-incarnate Jesus, that he had all the power, that he was able to give judgment, and that is what he is to do. Then Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, "I have sinned, for I did not know that you stood in the road against me." Now, when we read these words, "I have sinned," this is not a full confession, okay? He's saying, "I have sinned. I didn't know you were there." He is not confessing that he wants the money. He kept going to God to try to get God to do what he wants. It's not a full confession. He's just basically saying, "I didn't know you were there, God." Okay? It's not a confession at all. He says, "But now, therefore, if it is evil in your sight," you see that word "if"? He knows it's evil in his sight. God has already told him not to go, but here he is again playing mom and dad kind of idea, right? "If it is evil in your sight, I will turn back." He already knows that it is, and he's not turning back. And the angel of the Lord said, "Go with the men." Once again, God is giving him the desire of his heart, even though it's not right. But speak only the word that I will tell you. So Balaam went on. And notice what happens. King Balak, the king of the Moabites, heard that Balaam had come. He went out to meet him at the city of Moab on the border. This never would have happened, right? People come in to the king, and the king is sit on the throne, and they come to the king. But here, the king is so desperate and so scared of Israel, he rides out to the border to meet this prophet Balaam, right? So he's kind of sucking up to him, right? And just really trying to show him how happy he is here. And notice what the king says to him. And Balak said to Balaam, verse 37, did I not send to you to call you? Why did you not come to me? Am I not able to honor you? You see that word honor you? He could care less about honor. He's saying exactly what the prophet wants to hear. He says, I sent somebody, and how come you didn't come? I had to send somebody else. Is my money not good enough? Am I not able to honor you with payment? Am I not honored to pay you? That's really what Balaam wanted to hear, right? And so the king is telling him up front, oh, I got all kinds of money. If you do what I want, I'll give you your heart's desire. I'll give you the money. I'll give you the goat. I'll give you the caravans, whatever that you want. I have what you need, but you have to do something for me. And so Balaam tells him that the word of the Lord God puts in my mouth that I must speak. He tells him God is in control, right? So whatever you want me to do, it's up to God, right? But Balak doesn't care anything about that, and really neither does Balaam. And then Balaam went with Balak, and they came to sacrifice oxen, sheep, and sent for Balaam and the princess. Notice this: in the morning, Balak took Balaam and brought him up to Bamoth Baal, and from there he saw a fraction of the people. Now, when you read that, you might not remember, but you just read a few days ago about a place called Bamoth. But Bamoth has another name, Bamoth of Baal. And simply that translates the high places, right? That's what Bamoth means, the high place of Baal, the Canaanite god. And so the Moabite god brings him to a temple at a high place to worship and to sacrifice not Yahweh, not the God that he speaks for, but to worship other gods. And now we see Balaam worshiping and sacrificing to Baal at the high place at Baal. So we can start to see this story unfold, and we kind of understand how this is maybe going to work out. But we'll see this over the next couple chapters of what happens. So I hope that makes sense, and we'll see you tomorrow in chapter 23. God bless.